Can you imagine being so desperate that your only option is to hide with 3 small children inside a dark cave in the middle of the forest? It sounds like a horror story, but this happened in the interior of Minas Gerais in 1878, and what this mother found in the depths of that cave changed her life in a way that no one could have predicted. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and leave your like, because the ending of this story will surprise you in a way you never imagined. What had been hidden in that cave for decades was waiting for the right person to find it. And tell me in the comments what city you are watching this story from. I'd love to know how far these emotional stories are reaching. Cecilia Rodriguez was 31 years old when her life completely crumbled in a single winter afternoon. It was July 1878, and the biting cold of the Diamantina region in Minas Gerais penetrated to the bone. But nothing was colder than the news she had just received. Her husband, Bernardo, was dead. He had left 3 days earlier for a mining expedition in the mountains around Diamantina. Bernardo was a prospector, like his father and grandfather before him. An honest, hard-working man who dreamed of finding a diamond large enough to lift his family out of poverty. But the mines were treacherous. A landslide had buried Bernardo and 4 other men. When they managed to retrieve the bodies, it was too late. Cecilia was a woman of striking beauty, despite life's hardships. She had wavy brown hair that fell to her waist, usually tied in a thick braid. Her eyes were an almost golden brown, an unusual feature that drew attention. Her face was delicate, with high cheekbones and well-defined lips, but in recent years worries had marked her forehead with premature lines. She was of medium height, with a slender but strong body, hardened by years of hard work. She wore simple cotton dresses, always clean despite being patched in several places, and a woolen shawl that had belonged to her mother. She had 3 children to raise alone now. Gabriel, the oldest, was only 9 years old. He was a serious boy, with his father's dark eyes and a responsibility beyond his years. He already helped as much as he could, carrying water, helping with chores, taking care of his younger siblings. Then came Isabel, 6 years old, a girl with unruly curls and curious eyes who always asked 1,000 questions about everything. She loved wildflowers and had a habit of bringing home any pretty flower she found along the way. And lastly, there was little Antonio, who had just turned 3. He was a cheerful child, always smiling, still too innocent to fully understand that his father would never come home again. They lived in a tiny house on the outskirts of Diamantina, built of stone and mud, with a roof of colonial tiles. It had only 2 rooms, one that served as a living room and kitchen, the other that was the bedroom where everyone slept huddled together. It had no floor, just packed earth covered with straw mats. But it was a roof over their heads. Or at least it had been, while Bernardo was alive and could pay the rent. The owner of the property, Mr. Jacinto Tavares, was known for his avarice. He was a short, fat man with small, always calculating eyes, who owned several properties in the region. He appeared at Cecilia's door exactly 5 days after Bernardo's burial. "Mrs. Cecilia," he said, without even taking off his hat in respect, "I'm so sorry for your loss. But business doesn't stop. Your husband owed 2 months' rent. And now that he's dead, well, I need you to pay me or vacate the house." Cecilia felt the ground disappear from under her feet. 2 months. But Bernardo always paid on time. He paid when he was alive and working. Jacinto cut her off impatiently. But in the last 2 months, with the expeditions yielding little return, he fell behind. And now the debt is yours. 40,000 reis. By the end of the week, or you leave. "Mr. Jacinto, please," Cecilia pleaded, hating how her voice trembled. "I just lost my husband. I have 3 young children. I need time to find work too." "1 week," he interrupted her again. 7 days. "After that, I'll have my men remove you by force if necessary. And you can start looking for work right now, because even if you get something, it will take months to save up 40,000 reis washing clothes." And with that he left, leaving Cecilia standing at the door, holding Antonio in her lap, while Gabriel and Isabel looked at her with frightened eyes. Cecilia spent the following days in a whirlwind of despair. She tried everything. She went to every house in the wealthier areas of Diamantina, offering to do laundry, cook, clean, anything. But the answers were always the same. They already had help, or they couldn't afford another maid, or they looked at her with suspicion. A young widow was always seen as a potential threat. She went to the Brotherhood of Our Lady of the Rosary, the confraternity that cared for the poor and needy. But the nuns, though kind, could offer no more than a few meals and prayers. They had no way to shelter a woman with 3 children indefinitely. She even tried to speak to the priest of the main church, Father Anselmo, a middle-aged man known for his charity. But he was absent, having traveled to Ouro Preto and not returning for weeks. On the 7th day, at dawn, Jacinto Tavares appeared with 3 large men and a cart. Cecilia had tried to gather her few possessions: some clothes, a pot, thin blankets, the family Bible, a small image of a saint that had belonged to her grandmother. But when she saw the owner's hard face, she knew there would be no mercy. "Time's up," was all he said. The men went inside and began throwing Cecilia's things into the street. Gabriel tried to protest, placing himself between the men and his mother, but Cecilia pulled him back, afraid they would hurt him. In 20 minutes, everything Cecilia owned was piled up in the dusty street. Neighbors stopped to watch, some with pity in their eyes, others with morbid curiosity, but no one offered help. No one dared to contradict Jacinto Tavares. "Where are we going, Mommy?" Isabel asked, her small voice frightened, holding her younger brother's hand. Cecilia looked at her 3 children, at the pile of her belongings, at the closed door of what had been her home. For the first time in her life, she truly didn't know what to do. She spent that first night with the children under the awning of a closed shop. It was a cold July night, and they had only one thin blanket to share among the 4 of them. Antonio cried from cold and hunger. Isabel tried to be brave, but her little body trembled violently. Gabriel sat with his jaw clenched, trying to show a strength he didn't feel. When dawn arrived, Cecilia knew they couldn't stay in the city. She had heard stories of policemen arresting beggars and taking the children to orphanages. The idea of losing her children was worse than any physical suffering. She remembered something Bernardo had mentioned years ago. He talked about caves in the mountains around Diamantina, natural caverns that some prospectors used as temporary shelter during expeditions. They were dangerous, unexplored places, but they would offer protection from the cold and rain. And, most importantly, no one would take them away from there. "Come, my children," she said, trying to sound more confident than she felt. "Let's go on a journey." "Where to, Mom?" Gabriel asked. "To a safe place," Cecilia replied. "A place where we can rest and think about what to do." The walk up into the mountains was brutal. Cecilia could only carry the essentials: a bundle of clothes, a pot, the only blanket, her grandmother's image of a saint. Gabriel carried another bundle, and Isabel helped Antonio walk, holding his little hand. The path followed an old trail that gold miners used. In some places, the trail was so narrow that they had to walk single file, with a precipice dropping down on one side. Cecilia held Antonio's hand so tightly that her fingers turned white. They walked for hours. The children were hungry. Cecilia had managed to buy only a piece of bread and some brown sugar with the few coins she had, and that was already gone. Their feet ached. Isabel had blisters that bled through her worn shoes. But they kept walking because they had no choice. Finally, when the sun was high in the sky, Cecilia saw it. It was an opening in the rocky face of the mountain, partially hidden by vegetation. The entrance was perhaps 2 meters high and 1.5 meters wide, large enough for a person to pass through, but not so obvious that it would be easily found. "Is it there, Mommy?" Isabel asked, her voice a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Yes, my daughter," Cecilia said. "This is our new home." Entering the grotto was more frightening than Cecilia had expected. The opening led to a narrow tunnel that descended at a gentle angle. It was dark, an absolute darkness that seemed to swallow even the little light that entered through the opening. Cecilia had brought candles. Only 3, because that was all she had managed to buy. She lit one, and the faint, flickering light revealed the space around her. The tunnel was about 3 meters long, then opened into a larger chamber. The ceiling was uneven, with stalactites hanging like sharp teeth. The walls were of damp rock, covered in places with moss or something that looked like fungi. The floor was uneven, with puddles of water in depressions and loose stones scattered everywhere. but it was about 10 meters wide and perhaps 6 meters deep. It was cold, damp, and dark, but it offered protection from the wind and rain. And there was no one there to chase them away. "It's terrifying," Isabel whispered, snuggling against her mother. "I know, my love," Cecilia said, stroking her daughter's hair. "But it's safe. And we'll make it more comfortable. You'll see." That first night in the cave was one of the hardest of Cecilia's life. It was so cold that even with the four of them huddled under the single blanket, they shivered uncontrollably. Strange sounds echoed through the cave. Dripping water, inexplicable. Crackling, something that could be bats or wind, or Cecilia's imagination working overtime. Antonio cried himself to sleep from exhaustion. Isabel clung to her mother, her sobs silent. Gabriel sat in a corner, his knees pulled to his chest, trying not to let anyone see him wipe away his tears. And Cecilia stayed awake all night, listening to her children breathe, wondering if she had made a terrible mistake. Had she brought her children here to die slowly in this stone tomb? But when dawn brought a faint light through the cave entrance, Cecilia made a decision. They were going to survive. She wasn't going to let her children die. She was going to make it work somehow. The following days established a precarious survival routine. Cecilia organized the children into a work team. Gabriel was in charge of finding firewood and exploring the area for water. Isabel was in charge of sweeping up debris and dead leaves. Even little Antonio helped, gathering small twigs and piling them where his mother indicated. Gabriel found something precious, a small stream about a 15-minute walk from the cave, with clean, cold water. This at least solved the water problem. Cecilia worked to make the cave more habitable. She used stones to make a fire pit near the entrance, where the smoke could escape. She spread the blanket over a relatively flat area of the floor to serve as a communal bed. She carefully organized her few belongings, but they still had no food. Cecilia's stomach ached with hunger, and she knew her children were suffering even more. She had to find something, anything to eat. "Gabriel," she said, "stay here with your sister and brother. I'll go back near the city and see if I can find work, or beg for food if necessary. I'll be back before dark." "I should go with you, Mom," Gabriel said. "It's not safe for you alone." "I need you here to protect Isabel and Antonio," Cecilia said firmly. "You're the man of the family now. Can you do this for me?" Gabriel straightened his shoulders, trying to look older than his 9 years. "Yes, Mom. I can." Cecilia spent the day going from farm to farm on the outskirts of Diamantina, begging for work or food. Most people sent her away. Some gave her a piece of bread or some fruit, which she accepted gratefully, saving every crumb for her children. In the late afternoon, exhausted and with a small bundle of food that wouldn't last more than a day, she began the climb back up the mountain. But when she got close to the grotto, she heard something that made her heart stop. Children's voices, not just her children, but another voice as well. An excited voice, speaking rapidly. Cecilia dropped her bundle and ran the last few meters to the entrance of the cave. What she saw confused her. Gabriel, Isabel, and Antonio were all huddled together at the back of the main chamber, staring at something on the floor. But they weren't alone. There was another child with them, a boy of perhaps 11 or 12 years old, thin and dirty, with torn clothes and disheveled hair. "Mom!" Gabriel shouted when he saw her. "Look who we found! And look what he showed us." The strange boy turned around, and Cecilia saw his face. He had intelligent and frightened eyes, like a wild animal ready to flee at any moment. "Who are you?" Cecilia asked, instinctively placing herself between the stranger and her younger children. "What are you doing here?" "My name is Lucas," the boy said, his voice hoarse as if it wasn't used to speaking much. "I live here. Or I used to. I've been living in this cave for 3 months." Cecilia stared at him in shock. "You've been living here? Alone? A child?" Lucas nodded. "I ran away from the orphanage in Diamantina. They beat us, they didn't give us enough food. I preferred to live here alone than go back there." Cecilia's heart tightened. A child alone and abandoned, surviving in a cold cave. It was a horror she understood all too well. "But look, Mom." Gabriel insisted, drawing her attention. Lucas was exploring the tunnels at the back of the cave. There are tunnels that go deeper, and he found something. Something incredible. It was only then that Cecilia really looked where the children were pointing. On the ground, partially hidden by stones that seemed to have been recently moved, there was something that shone faintly in the candlelight. Cecilia approached slowly, her heart pounding. It was a box. An old wooden box, the size of a small chest, with rusty metal locks. And all around her, scattered on the floor as if they had fallen from a broken bag, were coins. Gold and silver coins, old and worn, but undeniably valuable. Cecilia stood paralyzed, staring at it. Then she looked at Lucas, who was watching her nervously. "I found this 2 weeks ago," Lucas said quickly. "I was exploring the tunnel from the bottom, trying to see how far it went, and I found this hidden chamber. There was this box there, buried under stones. I brought it here to where there was more light, but I couldn't open it. And I didn't know what to do with the coins. I kept some to try to buy food, but I was afraid that if someone saw, they would ask where I got them and I would be arrested for theft." Cecilia knelt beside the box, her hands trembling. Carefully, she moved some more stones that were on top of it. The wood was rotten in places, the hinges rusty. She tried the lid and with a creak it gave way. Inside there were more coins, many more. There were jewels too, necklaces, rings, earrings, all old and dusty, but clearly valuable. And underneath it all, wrapped in waxed cloth that had preserved it, was a document. With trembling hands, Cecilia unfolded the paper and began to read by the dim light of the candle. The letter was written in elegant but shaky handwriting, dated 1795, more than 80 years ago. "To whoever finds this chest, my name is Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira. I am hiding in this cave, gravely wounded, and I know I will not survive the night. I was betrayed by men I considered friends, men who coveted the gold we discovered together in the mountains of Diamantina. This chest contains my share of the loot, gold, silver, and jewels that I honestly mined during 10 years of hard work. It also contains something more valuable. Documents proving the existence of an unregistered diamond vein, one of the richest I have ever seen in my life. I plan to officially register this discovery, pay the taxes owed to the crown, and build an honest life with these resources. But my partners, Sebastio Mora and Antonio Barros, wanted to keep everything secret, not pay taxes, and sell the diamonds on the black market. When I refused, they attacked me. They left me here to die. The documents in this chest show the exact location of the diamond vein. They also show evidence that Sebastio and Antonio were involved in other robberies and crimes. If you find this, use it as you see fit. If you are an honest person, register the mine properly and claim what is rightfully yours by right of discovery. If you are a thief, well, you will have to live with your conscience. As for my gold and jewels, consider them yours. I have no living family, no one to leave them as an inheritance. Use them wisely. May God have mercy on my soul and yours. Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira. August 15th, 1795 inch. Cecilia finished reading and remained silent, looking at the paper. Then she looked at her children, who watched her with wide eyes. Then at Lucas, whose shoulders were tense, ready to run away if she kicked him out. Finally, she looked back at the chest full of gold and jewels, then at the carefully preserved documents that spoke of an unregistered diamond vein. "Lucas," she said softly, and the boy jumped, startled. "You found this. By right, it is yours." Lucas blinked, surprised. But you have children to feed. I'm just me. I don't need all this." Cecilia felt tears welling up in her eyes at the nobility of that abandoned child, who, even hungry and alone, thought of others before himself. "Then let's divide it," she said firmly. "Half for you, half for us. And let's do what Captain Rodrigo asked. Let's be honest. Let's properly register this discovery. Let's denounce the crimes he mentioned. Let's do justice." "But the men he mentions," Gabriel said, always the practical thinker. "Sebastio Mora and Antonio Barros. They must be dead now. That was over 80 years ago." "But their descendants may not be," Cecilia said slowly, her brain already working on the problem. And if this vein of diamonds really exists, if these documents are valid, then whoever officially registers the discovery will have a legal right to it. She looked at the gold coins scattered around. She had enough there to feed her children for months, maybe years. She had enough to buy a small house, to ensure they would never go hungry again. And in the documents, there was perhaps the chance of something even greater. A vein of diamonds, wealth beyond anything she could imagine. But there was also danger. People would kill for far less than that. Captain Rodrigo himself had died for it. "We need to be very careful," she said finally. Very careful indeed. That night, with all the children finally asleep, Lucas had accepted Cecilia's invitation to stay with them, at least temporarily. Cecilia stayed awake by the dim fire, studying Captain Rodrigo's documents. There was a hand-drawn map showing the location of the diamond vein. It was in the mountains east of Diamantina, in an area Cecilia vaguely recognized. There were also letters, copies of mining contracts, and something even more surprising, a detailed diary where Captain Rodrigo had recorded his discoveries, including estimates of how much gold and how many diamonds the vein might contain. If he was right, it was a fortune that could change Cecilia's and her children's lives forever. But she needed help. She needed someone who understood mining laws, who could help her navigate the complex system of records and claims. She needed someone she could trust. She thought of Father Anselmo, the priest who was traveling. He was known for his honesty, for his defense of the poor. If anyone could help her do this the right way, it would be him. But he wouldn't be back for another few weeks. And Cecilia didn't know if she could keep this secret for so long, especially while they lived in a cave where anyone could stumble upon them. It was Lucas who offered an unexpected solution. The next day, while they ate bread that Cecilia had bought with some of the gold coins, carefully cleaned and only one or two at a time so as not to arouse suspicion, the boy spoke. "I know someone who can help," he said shyly. "A lady who sometimes helped me when I lived on the streets before coming to the cave. Dona Eulalia. She's very old, but they say she used to be very rich, that she lost everything, and she knows everyone important in Diamantina. And she's good. She wouldn't try to steal or betray." Cecilia looked at the boy. "And you trust her?" Lucas nodded with conviction. "She gave me food when I was starving. She never reported me to the authorities even though she knew I had run away from the orphanage. If there's anyone in Diamantina who will help without trying to take advantage, it's Dona Eulalia." Cecilia made a decision. "Then let's visit her. Can you take us to her?" "I can," Lucas confirmed. Dona Eulalia Mendez lived in a tiny house on the outskirts of Diamantina, a building so small it barely had room for one person, let alone a family. But it was clean and well kept, with flowers planted in old cans out front. Dona Eulalia herself was a woman who seemed to have emerged from another century. She had to be at least 90 years old, maybe more. Her face was a map of deep wrinkles, but her eyes were surprisingly lively and bright. She was tiny, bent with age, with completely white hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore a simple black dress and a faded shawl over her shoulders. When Lucas knocked on the door, leading Cecilia, she opened it with a smile that lit up her wrinkled face. "Lucas, my boy," she exclaimed in a surprisingly strong voice. "I thought you had disappeared. And who is this lady?" "This is Cecilia," Lucas said. "She and her children are living in the grotto with me. And we found something. Something important. She needs help." Dona Eulalia looked at Cecilia with her penetrating eyes, seeming to assess her character in an instant. Then she nodded. "Come in, my daughter. Tell me everything." Inside the cramped little house, with the children waiting outside, Cecilia had brought only Gabriel with her, leaving Isabel and Antonia with Lucas. Cecilia told the whole story. She told about Bernardo, about the expulsion, about the grotto, about the discovery of Captain Rodrigo's trunk. She showed Dona Eulalia some of the documents. She had left the gold and jewels hidden in the grotto, bringing only the most important papers. Dona Eulalia studied the documents carefully, her old glasses perched on the tip of her nose. As she read, her expression changed from curiosity to surprise, to something close to shock. "My God," she finally murmured. Do you know who Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira was? Cecilia shook her head. No, only what's in the letter. Why? He was a legend, Dona Eulalia said, her voice reverent. When I was young, and I'm talking about 60, 70 years ago, stories were still told about Captain Rodrigo. They said he was the best prospector in all of Diamantina, that he had the gift of finding diamonds where no one else could. And then he disappeared. He simply vanished. Some say that he had fled to Rio de Janeiro with a fortune in diamonds. Others said he had been killed by thieves. But no one knew for sure. She looked at Cecilia with an intensity that made the younger woman shrink back. And now you bring me proof that he was murdered by his own partners, left to die in a cave, and left behind not only a fortune in gold, but also the location of an unregistered diamond vein. The vein still exists? Cecilia asked. After all this time. If Captain Rodrigo said it exists, Dona Eulalia said with conviction. That man wasn't one to make false claims. And if no one has found it in 80 years, it means it's well hidden, exactly as he wanted. She handed the documents back to Cecilia. My daughter, you are sitting on a fortune that could change your life. But you are also in great danger. If news of this discovery spreads before you officially register it, powerful men will try to steal it from you. And a poor widow with 3 children? You wouldn't have any way to defend yourself. So what do I do? Cecilia asked, feeling panic begin to rise in her chest. Dona Eulalia thought for a long moment. Then she said, I know someone. A lawyer in Ouro Preto, Dr. Enrique Vasconcelos. He's honest, a rare man these days. He can help you register everything legally. Protect your rights. But it will cost money. I have gold, Cecilia said. From the captain's chest. Enough to pay any fees. Then here's what we're going to do, Dona Eulalia said, her mind clearly working on the problem. You're going to stay here with me, you and your children and that boy Lucas too. My house is small, but we'll manage. You can't stay in that cave anymore. It's too dangerous now that you've found this treasure. Someone could follow you, could steal everything. But Cecilia began to protest. No buts. Dona Eulalia interrupted her firmly. I'll write to Dr. Enrique today. He'll come, he'll review the documents, he'll start the registration process. And in the meantime, you'll stay here safe, where I can keep an eye on you. Cecilia felt tears welling up in her eyes. Why are you doing this for us? You don't know us. Dona Eulalia smiled, a sad but genuine smile. Because many years ago, when I lost everything and was destitute, a stranger helped me. She gave me shelter, food, dignity when I had nothing. I never forgot that kindness. And I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would pass that kindness on. She held Cecilia's hands. You are a good mother, a good woman. You made the right choice in wanting to do things honestly, legally. You deserve to be helped. And that boy Lucas too. God knows he's suffered enough already. Dr. Enrique Vasconcelos arrived from Ouro Preto 2 weeks later. He was a man in his 50s, with gray hair and gold-rimmed glasses, wearing an impeccable black suit. He had an air of seriousness and competence that immediately reassured Cecilia. He studied Captain Rodrigo's documents for hours, making notes, comparing them with maps he had brought, asking detailed questions. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. They were gathered in Dona Eulalia's small room, cramped but determined, and said, This is authentic. I have no doubt. The handwriting is consistent with the period, the paper is genuine, and the details in the documents correspond to historical records I have about mining activities in the 1790s. Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira really existed, really disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and these documents explain what happened to him. He looked at Cecilia with a serious expression. Regarding the diamond vein, if the location on the maps is correct, it's located on land that isn't currently registered as anyone's property. It's crown land, technically. That means you can claim it by following the proper mineral discovery registration procedures. And how long will that take? Cecilia asked. Months possibly, Dr. Enrique admitted. There's paperwork, official inspections, fees to be paid. But if everything is done correctly, legally, you'll have legal rights to the mine. No one can take it from you. And the gold and jewels we've already found? Cecilia asked. Technically, they belonged to Captain Rodrigo. He had no known heirs, Dr. Enrique said. And in his letter, he clearly left everything to whoever found it. That, combined with the fact that the treasure was on unclaimed land, means that by right of discovery, it's yours. You'll need to declare and pay taxes on the value, but after that, it's rightfully yours. Cecilia felt a wave of relief. Then let's do this. Let's do everything the right way. But doing things the right way, Cecilia discovered, didn't mean it would be easy or safe. The news that a poor widow had made a valuable discovery spread quickly through Diamantina. Dr. Enrique was discreet, but some people had seen Cecilia selling some of the old gold coins, carefully, through intermediaries, but still. Rumors began to circulate. And then the threats began. The first came in the form of an anonymous letter, left on Dona Eulalia's door. It was simple and direct. Women who find treasures that don't belong to them often suffer accidents. It would be a shame if something happened to your children. Cecilia turned pale as she read it. Dona Eulalia was furious. Dr. Enrique was worried. "We need protection," he said. "I'll hire security guards. And I'll speed up the registration process as much as possible. The faster this is official, the safer you'll be." But the threats continued. Men began to appear near Dona Eulalia's house, watching, waiting. One night, someone threw stones through the windows. Another night, they tried to force the door. Cecilia lived in constant terror, not for herself but for her children. Gabriel, Isabel, and Antonio didn't fully understand the danger, but they felt the tension. Isabel began to have nightmares. Antonio cried more often. Even Gabriel, always strong, seemed nervous and scared. It was Lucas who offered an unexpected idea. The boy, who had lived on the streets and knew how to hide, how to survive, suggested, "What if we go back to the cave? Temporarily. Until the papers are ready. Nobody knows exactly where it is. Only you and I. It would be safer than here, where everyone is watching us." Cecilia hesitated. The idea of returning to that cold, dark cave was terrible. But the idea of her children being kidnapped or hurt was worse. All right, she finally agreed. But only until everything is registered. Until we are legally protected. Returning to the grotto was like going back in time. But this time it was different. Cecilia now had enough gold to buy better blankets, more food, enough candles to keep the darkness at bay. And she had hope, real hope that this would end, that they would have a future. Dr. Enrique visited them regularly, bringing updates on the legal process. Dona Eulalia sent food and supplies through Lucas, who knew all the secret paths through the mountains. And while they waited, Cecilia did something she didn't expect to do. She began to explore the grotto more deeply, especially the tunnels that Lucas had mentioned. It was on one of these explorations, 3 weeks after they returned, that she made another discovery. There was a very deep chamber in the grotto, at the end of a narrow tunnel that required crawling for several meters. Lucas had only been there once. It was where he had originally found the chest. But Cecilia, with a candle in her hand and her heart pounding, went deeper. And she found something that brought tears to her eyes. It was a skeleton. The bones were arranged in a resting position, as if the person had lain down there to sleep and never woke up again. Next to the bones were remnants of rotten clothing, what had once been leather boots, and a small gold medallion. Cecilia picked up the medallion with trembling hands. It had an inscription engraved on it, Captain R.A.P. 1765 to 1795. Rodrigo Alves Pereira, the man who had written that letter 83 years ago. He had died here alone and betrayed, and his remains had remained undiscovered all this time. Cecilia knelt beside the skeleton, holding the medallion, and wept. She wept for the captain, for his lonely death, for his courage in documenting the truth even as he was dying. She wept for Bernardo, her own husband unjustly killed. She wept for all the good men whose lives were stolen by the greed of others. And then she made a promise. "Captain Rodrigo," she whispered to the silent bones, "I promise I will do what you asked. I will honestly record your discovery. I will ensure your name is remembered. And I will give you a dignified burial, in consecrated ground, with your name on a tombstone so that everyone knows you were an honorable man." She took the medallion back and told Dr. Enrique about the discovery. The lawyer arranged for the appropriate authorities to recover Captain Rodrigo's remains and bury them properly in the Diamantina cemetery, with a respectful ceremony. The captain's story, his murder, his posthumous letter, the discovery of his remains, spread throughout the region. And something interesting happened. The threats stopped. The discovery of Captain Rodrigo's body, proof of his murder 83 years earlier, transformed Cecilia's story from a widow who found gold to a woman who brought justice to a long-forgotten man. The people of Diamantina began to see her differently, not as someone trying to steal a fortune, but as someone honoring the memory of a good man. The registration process was finally completed 4 months after Cecilia found Captain Rodrigo's chest. The diamond vein was officially registered in her name. She paid all the taxes due on the gold and jewels she had found. Everything was done legally and correctly. And then, accompanied by Dr. Enrique and an official geologist, Cecilia went to the location that Captain Rodrigo had marked on his maps. What they found there confirmed everything he had written. The diamond vein was real, extensive, and incredibly rich. The geologist estimated that it could produce high-quality diamonds for decades. Cecilia, who had started that year as a poor widow about to be evicted, ended the year as the owner of one of the most valuable mines in all of Minas Gerais. But she didn't forget where she came from. She didn't forget the people who helped her. Her first purchase with her new fortune was a house. Not a mansion, she didn't want ostentation, but a comfortable house, with enough rooms for her children, with a large kitchen where they could eat together, with a garden where Isabel could plant her flowers. And she bought a second house, right next to hers, for Lucas. The boy who had lived on the streets and then in a cold grotto, who had no family or anyone who cared about him, suddenly had not only a house but a family. Cecilia formally adopted him, making him her 4th child. "You helped me when I had nothing," she told Lucas when she signed the adoption papers. "You shared your discovery with me without hesitation. You are part of this family now. Forever." Lucas, who rarely showed emotion, cried. Dona Eulalia also received a new house, larger and more comfortable, where she could spend her last years in comfort. Cecilia also established a fund to ensure that the old lady would never have financial worries. "I had lost faith in human kindness," Dona Eulalia said with tears in her eyes. "But you showed me that there are still good people in the world." Dr. Enrique Vasconcelos was generously compensated for his work and became Cecilia's personal lawyer, helping her manage her affairs and ensuring that everything was always done honestly and legally. And what about Jacinto Tavares, the cruel landlord who had evicted Cecilia from his home? Cecilia bought all his properties, all the shacks he rented to poor families at exorbitant prices. And then she reduced the rents to fair values, made repairs to the houses, and treated her tenants with dignity. Jacinto, financially ruined and publicly humiliated, left Diamantina in disgrace. Cecilia felt no satisfaction with his downfall, only relief that he could no longer harm other families as he had harmed hers. 20 years had passed. Cecilia was now 51 years old. Her hair had gray strands and lines marked her face, but her golden eyes still shone with intelligence and determination. Her children had grown up and become remarkable people. Gabriel became a mining engineer, using his knowledge to make mining safer and fairer for workers. Isabel married a teacher, and together they opened a school for poor children in Diamantina, ensuring that children like she had access to education. Antonio, the youngest, became a doctor, dedicating himself especially to caring for the poor and needy without charging those who could not pay. And Lucas, the boy who had been found in a cave, grew up and became a lawyer, following in the footsteps of Dr. Enrique. He specialized in defending orphans and abandoned children, ensuring that no child had to live on the streets or in abusive orphanages as he had lived. The diamond mine had brought wealth, yes, but more importantly, it had brought purpose. Cecilia used her fortune to build an orphanage in Diamantina. Not like the old, cruel, and neglectful ones, but a place where children were treated with love and dignity. She built a charity home for widows and women in need. She financed renovations in the slums where the poor lived. She paid for the education of dozens of children whose families could not afford it. And she never forgot Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira. Every year, on the anniversary of his death, Cecilia went to his grave in the Diamantina cemetery and placed flowers. The gravestone she had commissioned was impressive. White marble engraved with his name, his dates, and the words, Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira, 1765 to 1795. Honorable gold miner. Murdered by those who should have protected him. His truth finally came to light. His memory lives on. She had even managed to trace descendants of Sebastio Mora and Antonio Barros, the men who had killed the captain. She had confronted them with the evidence of their ancestors' crimes. She did not seek revenge. They were not responsible for the sins of men who had died 80 years ago. But she ensured that the truth was known, that Captain Rodrigo's name was cleared, that everyone knew he had been a victim, not a criminal. One autumn afternoon, sitting on the porch of her house, watching her grandchildren play in the garden, Gabriel had 2 children, Isabel 3, Antonio 1, and Lucas had just gotten married. Cecilia reflected on her journey. From a desperate widow hiding in a cave with 3 starving children, she had become one of the most respected women in Diamantina. Not just for her wealth, but for how she used that wealth. For her generosity, her justice, her kindness. You're thinking about him again, aren't you? A voice said. Cecilia looked up and saw Lucas, now a 33-year-old man, tall and confident, but still with those intelligent eyes she remembered from the boy in the cave. Captain Rodrigo, she asked. I always think about him. If it weren't for him, for his honesty in documenting everything, for his courage, you would have found another way, Lucas said with conviction. Because that's the kind of person you are. You don't give up. You find solutions. You do the right thing, even when it's difficult. Cecilia smiled. We did the right thing. All of us together. You, Dona Eulalia, Dr. Enrique. I couldn't have done it alone. But you started it, Lucas insisted. You could have taken that gold and run away. You could have been dishonest. But you chose the right path, the legal path. And because of that, not only you and your children were blessed, but hundreds of other people as well. He sat down beside her, watching the children play. You know I'm going to sue the provincial government for reforming the orphanage system, right? Using the abuse evidence I collected. Cecilia nodded. I know. And I'll fund your fight. Every penny you need. Because it's the right thing to do, Lucas finished with a smile. Because it's the right thing to do, Cecilia agreed. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the next generation grow up in safety, love, and opportunity. A generation that would never know the hunger, the cold, the despair that Cecilia and Lucas had known. And Cecilia thought of Captain Rodrigo, dead alone in a grotto so long ago, and whispered one last promise. Your legacy lives on, Captain. Not just in diamonds, but in all the lives that were changed, all the children that were saved, all the goodness that arose from your courage. You did not die in vain. Never in vain. The afternoon breeze carried her words through the mountains of Diamantina, the same mountains where she had once hidden in despair and found hope in the darkness of a grotto. And somewhere, she liked to think, the spirit of Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira finally rested in peace, knowing that justice had been done, that his truth had been told, and that his sacrifice had meant something. The grotto where Cecilia and her children had hidden, where Lucas had lived alone, where Captain Rodrigo had died, was not forgotten. Cecilia had a bronze plaque installed at the entrance. Cave of Hope. Here in 1878, a desperate family found shelter. Here in 1795, Captain Rodrigo Alves Pereira died alone but not forgotten. Here the truth waited 83 years to be discovered. May this place remind us that even in the deepest darkness, hope can be found, justice can prevail, and kindness can transform everything. The cave became a place of pilgrimage for people in need, people who needed inspiration. and Cecilia ensured that there were always basic supplies hidden there. Blankets, candles, canned food, for any desperate soul who needed shelter. Because she never forgot the feeling of being so desperate that a cold, dark cave was her only hope. And she never forgot that inside that cave, in the darkness, she had found not only gold, but something far more valuable. She had found purpose. She had found family. She had found the strength not only to survive, but to thrive. And she had learned that sometimes the greatest treasures are not those that shine, but those that transform lives, that bring justice, that build legacies of kindness that last for generations. So, what did you think of this story? Would you have had the courage to do the right thing like Cecilia did, even when you could have simply kept everything? Leave your opinion here in the comments. I read them all and I love to know what you think. If you enjoyed this moving story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any new videos. Every week there are incredible stories like this waiting for you here. And look, get your heart ready, because the next video I'm going to recommend to you is even more surprising. Click on the screen now and continue this journey of stories that touch the soul. Until next time.